Hello and welcome to the release of the new web-based platform from Focus First we call Visual Home Values. This is such an exciting day for us because this is something we've been wanting to put out there to really kind of take our value to that next level for a while now, and we finally get to release this new web-based platform to you. Now, this Focus First platform is more than just a simple update. Sure, we're getting rid of a lot of things that you didn't really love about the old platform, but we're adding so much more value, so much more functionality, and so many new features that this is a game-changing moment of really escaping to the new frontier and getting to the web-based. Now, this came about specifically because we've been listening to what our agents really want. We've been listening to you and your feedback, and what you want to see, and kind of more importantly, what you don't want to see in the software. And time again, we heard the main sticking points of activation codes are no fun. We don't want to have to use Microsoft Excel on the desktop. And we want to be able to use this on iPads or Chromebooks or other devices that can't use a traditional Excel. So we listened. So we said, you know what? How can we make this better? How can we really elevate this to the next level? Not just by simply taking what we have and making it be online, but thinking from a perspective of how can we help in other ways. So sure, we got rid of the activation codes. No more Excel, and we allow non-standard computers. But we also want to add features like the ability to save and continue your reports later, the ability to compile and create reports as you go so you can print directly from the software or download directly from it, and to add in some awesome guidance so you can really master this process and understand everything so that you truly have the max value out of this. Because we believe the confidence that you get, the confidence that you build, helps you take action, and that action ends up yielding results. So we're really excited about this because with these main goals in mind, what we took to the drawing board is how can we define the process so the software helps you stay on track and helps you get it right as you're going through this. Not necessarily having to take a class or read a book or really understand all those processes, but step by step walk you through every kind of goal to achieve to get that end goal of pricing home right or gain a real estate review that's done really beautifully so you can connect to your customers. Awesome. So today's presentation, we're going to walk through this awesome new release, and we're going to do it in 5 basically 10-minute blocks. Now, I did this during a live Zoom earlier. I wish I could just share that whole Zoom with you, but you're going to get the entire impact of that presentation from this. The only thing we don't have is some of those question and answer session at the end that we did during that live presentation. So I'm going to answer just the key questions from that and kind of address those as we go. But in these next basically 50 minutes, we're going to walk through the general walkthrough of the software, creating your FHFA and real estate reviews reports, creating CMAs, where you can find help, and how to log in and how you can get access right now to this new Focus First web-based. So let's go ahead and jump into it and really show you the new software. So, introducing Visual Home Values from Focus First. Now, this is a completely different platform than anything you've seen, especially if you're just using our Microsoft Excel edition. So bear with me here as I walk through the general areas of understanding how to navigate the software, and then we'll jump into actually using it. So this first thing to note is we have a main page, which is kind of this whole center section. We have a navigation bar across the top, and we have little call-out boxes kind of dispersed throughout the whole page. This is the general layout of the whole software with a navigation and then a kind of center area that changes as we go. So just note you can kind of navigate between all the places by clicking on the links at the top. And you can find other things as you click these other options in this navigation link, like your help and support areas and your settings for your profile, billing, and other things to navigate the software. In the center section, you'll find most of your controls, and that will just change as we go and as we work through this. Based on what step or what process you're doing. For example, this is the My Save page, which I'll show you in depth here in a second, how to navigate that. On this main homepage, we have the ability to create new reports. We can open up our recent activity, the last 3, or we can kind of navigate some of our tutorial videos or instructions on creating our MLS export. So this navigation is pretty easy to walk through. Once we get into the reports, you'll see, for example, if I open up one of these files, we have a complete change to this inner area where we have, in this case, a report, or we have the page we're working on or building, like a scattergram here, for example. And this is all your control area, where on the left side here is the steps that we're going to walk through. Now, as we go through this process, we'll actually walk from top to bottom, but you can always click back and forth between these to kind of just change what page is showing as we go through creating a report. And so this kind of report creation area has your steps on the side, your controls in the middle, and then an additional little option up here in the toolbar, which is the CMA coworker, which is your basically AI assistant to understand these graphs that I'll talk through later as well. So that's kind of the main navigation of the area. So let me show you a couple of the areas that are not the report creation, just to make sure you understand how they kind of operate. So in this My Saved area is how you can find your old reports that you've been working on and continue on later. You can open them by using the Open File control. You can edit some of the details on this card by clicking the Edit button here. You can also delete them, add a favorite, do whatever you want to navigate this and make this totally easy for you to find the reports you want. Now, if you want to find specific reports, you can always search as well in this top bar by customer name, address, location. You can sort or filter by report styles or sort by different names and everything too, to just really make sure that you can find things how you want to. Now, one thing to note in this though, if you do delete this, the way that this whole web base works is you have basically a slice of the cloud that's dedicated to you that we don't get to see. That way you're not really sharing your data with us or anything like that. The downside is if you delete something, we can't recover it for you. So just note, if you click delete on something, for example here, you get a warning saying if you delete this card or this report card essentially, we can't get it back. So be sure that you want to delete it if you want to delete that. Going back to the home page here, you can see on this top right, we have a couple more options. And I already explained that you can click on these and they open up controls, but let me show you a couple of those key controls that you're probably going to want to see access to. When I click my name, you can see this account menu drop down. And the first one here is this profile and billing. Now this helps you see your account area, your phone number, and everything like that. And you can change that by clicking edit here. You can go to your billing history, change your plan, change your subscription, as well as update a new credit card if you need to add a new one. You can come here to change your agent branding, where you can really change what shows up on the bottom of the graphs, as well as you can change what is showing. As far as color goes, you can kind of change your colors pretty easily by just clicking in and clicking custom if you want to put your own special ones in, or selecting one of the options that we have here for our default or kind of the standard bigger company options. Also, this is where you'll find our terms of service and some achievements you'll unlock as you take actions in the software. And again, that's here under your account name. Under your account name, also the ability to open up your system settings and change settings as you need to, as far as how data is treated to make sure it matches how you want to show your reports. As Infusionsoft users, you still have access to your old subscription, so you still have access to the Excel base and the resources there if you want to use those. All you have to do is click the legacy account area, which opens up your login for your previous area, where you can still log in and find that as well. We don't think a lot of you will be using that as much as you have been, because this has a lot of the report creation and assistance built into it, so it's got a lot more value just in the software itself. But you can always find your login here, and as we release new updates, we can click on this release updates and you'll see the new things as we add each time of the new release. And again, obviously you can click here to log out. All you have to do is log back in, bring you right back in the software. Pretty easy to do, continue where you left off. So, as simple as that, that's navigating the software and where to find your settings in general. So let's talk about the creating of reports. So the first thing I want to do here is show you a new report that we call the FHFA Appreciation Report, which is kind of your easy button when it comes to actually creating things. So all I have to do is click the button here, and you have the option of entering a customer name, so let's say customer name. And we're going to do this for Fort Collins, Colorado. Now by clicking save here, we created new reports, and all we have to do to select our MLS is click here in the top right, and the first thing that's going to load is our state FHFA appreciation. So sorry, I said MLS, MSA area. And first we're going to look at our state. Now notice here that this report is showing basically what happened in your area overall, and then we can also go over here and find our local area. So pretty simple, pretty easy to understand graph where we have the FHFA appreciation charts, your information here on the bottom, and then a kind of breakdown of that data on the right. Now the cool thing about this report is there's actually 3 different templates. So you can choose between them or switch between them however you want. In order to do that, we're going to use our step over here on the left, go to choose template, and there's a landscape, a portrait, and a chart only. look at those. All I have to do is click portrait, for example. You can see we're in a little bit more of a portrait mode page. Let me zoom out so you can see the whole thing. We have the title, the graph, a little breakdown, and then down here in the bottom, we now have just your general information as an agent. Now remember, if you want to change this information, all you have to do is go to your profile and billing settings, go to your agent branding, and then here I can say first name, last. When I save branding here, the next time we reload this page, so let me just go back to the template, come back to it, you'll see here now that it has changed my information here in the footer. So on this simple kind of FHFA easy button report, we always have just your basic information down here in the bottom. You do have the ability to add logos and images and custom graphics on the other reports, and I'll show you those when we get there. But just remember, we have a third template as well, which is just your chart only. Doesn't have the breakdown of the information on it, just has the general chart and then your header and your footer. So this is a great, easy button report to just kind of turn on for flow pretty easily, where we update these quarterly. You can send these to customers, you can send them with the breakdown or not. Just keep that conversation going as a touch of base in between doing your real estate reviews. Speaking of real estate reviews, I'm going to click home to go back to this center page here. And I'm going to show you guys creating a new real estate review. So clicking the plus button here, it opens it up. And we're going to add a customer name in here. So let's add customer name 2. And this is going to be for the address 3742 Rockdale Drive, which is also in Fort Collins, Colorado, a neighborhood called English Ranch. Now the reason I'm using an actual address here is I want to show you in one of the pages that you can add on in one of the templates, you actually can pull up Google Maps image of the home and use real data from this location. So in this case, I'm going to click Save. This created my real estate review report, and like I said, I created a real estate review report, so I get a little achievement thing that pops up, and you'll collect those in your little trophy spot as you go. So that being said, we're now open and ready to create our real estate review. So the first step we're greeted with in this process, which we're guiding down the left, is the step to help us get the right search for the data in the software. Now the cool thing about the software is it allows you now to go by the style of neighborhood. For example, if a standard neighborhood, non-standard neighborhood, unique property feature, a wider area of the city, or if you're in a small town, you're looking for all the citywide data, just click on the button that best matches your property. And you'll see that this is live updated on the bottom to help give you the right search recommendation to get the right data for the software so you master the search and get the right information. Now this software still works like our desktop version does, where you do your search in MLS, you export it and save it to your computer, and then you load it in software. The difference here, again, this loads into the web-based that only you have access to, but it saves it so you can come back to it later, which is a really powerful kind of easy way to do it where you can really always continue on. That being said though, I'm going to use this search recommendation, go to my MLS, do my search, and then load it in the software. Now going to my next step here, I am now ready to select my MLS area. So all I have to do is have the country selected correct, go by state in this case, and I can search in the search bar or scroll however it works for you and find your MLS. Now, if you select your MLS, this will automatically be selected from here on out, so you don't have to really keep doing it every single time. Another way that you can always kind of find it faster is if you add a little star favorite next to it, it adds it to the small list of favorites. So for example, let's say I worked in Fort Collins as well as Denver, I could put favorites on both of these. And if I have that favorited on this top right here, I have a little favorites toggle switch that I can kind of navigate and find it pretty quick. But in this case, I'm sticking with the Northern Colorado one because that's where the search was done. I'm click go to next step. Now I'm ready to read in that data, and to do that, all I have to do is click the button here, find that save file, click open, and then it'll bring that information in. Now you see here it says data looks good. You might see a warning here that would be like a little yellow and has a code on it. That would be if the search doesn't look quite right to the software. It'll give you that warning. It doesn't mean it didn't work, but it does mean maybe you might be missing some data or a status or something like that. And it'll give you a recommendation on how to fix it. Now, we have more information on those codes in the Help Center, which I'll show you here later on in the video. But I just want to make sure that you understand that if you get a warning here, it still is technically working. It's just one of those things that maybe can be improved. In this case, though, we got green, so we're all good to go. I'm going to click go to next step. And the real estate review in the new Focus First web-based visual home values has 3 different options. we have a one-page report, which is a very simple, easy way to kind of summarize the activity and then show that scattergram. The traditional two-page report, and throwback to kind of the original version of the real estate review is the multi-page with full-size, full-page graphs that you kind of flip through when you're talking to your customer. So let's go through each of these really quickly to show you how those look. On the one-page report, when I click this and open it, we'll find a very simple report here where we have a little summary box in the top, scattergram in the middle, a brief understanding of the scattergram and how to read it, and then a little message from you to your clients. And at the very bottom, just your general little footer with your information. Now there's some things in here we can change and we can fix. The first thing, looking at scattergram for example, if I zoom in, we can see the dots are not super close to the line. So what we can do in the real estate review, and obviously the CMA, is we can customize the scattergram and find the right relevant information. So let me show you how that works because it's a vast improvement over the last system. Now to do this, we're going to click on the left side here, customize scattergram, and this pulls up the scattergram controls. Now at the bottom of the scattergram, what we're going to do is try some different x-axis variables to see if any of them match this property better. So first we're going to do is click the graph finished square feet, and just like that, the graph automatically updates. You don't have to go back and create a new one each time. You can kind of just experiment with this. Now we can see pretty clearly that matched the data pretty well, so we're probably okay with the finished square feet being the data point that's moving it for this neighborhood. But the question now remains is what's going on with this guy? Now, as you can see, if I hover over it, it actually shows me the address. Or to add a text box to any graph or any property, all I have to do is click on the dot and it'll pull up that text box. Now, if you want to increase the fields that come in here, all I have to do is click on the fields control and say, all right, that was the sold price. Let's put on the beds, baths, year built, total square feet, as well as garage spaces. Awesome. Now, I can click done and it'll add to the text box, or I can click set as default, so any text box I added from this point will automatically have that. So I'll say set as default, click done, and now you can see I have that text box with that information automatically in here. Now if I want to move it, all I do is click and drag, and it's pretty easy to move around. That being said, I want to add a little more detail to this. I know, having looked at this is a patio home, and that's why it's selling that far below, so I want to add that detail to this text box using the notes function here in the middle. So just like that, I added some detail to this, but there's a new control that makes this graph even more accurate. You see this graph, this dot on the past graph, if it was on the graph in general, it always affected the trend line. Now though, we can say, hey, this is not a patio home, this is a patio home. This is not the same relevant data as the other homes in the neighborhood. So let's go ahead and take this so it's not being dragged down or dragging down the trend line. So let's take it off there, but let's leave it on the graph. To do that in the data sheet, we have the ability to go ahead and click on the box here. And that trend line now moved up and is more accurate to the homes in the neighborhood, even with this still on here. Awesome. Looking at the scattergram graph now, I'm pretty happy with it, especially for a real estate review. So let's go ahead and click Save and View Report. And now we'll see this graph updated on the report, including the text box we added in there. Now, obviously, in this portrait mode, that's kind of a small text box. Might be hard to read for some people, but we leave it up to you to really kind of choose the math on that if you want to include that in there or not. Now, in order to customize the report, we can customize this title here or the title here as well as the message on the bottom. Click Customize Report on the left side and it allows us to kind of customize that using the text boxes here. The other thing you can do is add a custom graphic to replace that footer on the bottom. We have recommended pixel sizes for that. So let me show you what one of those looks like when I go to the next template, which is the traditional two-page real estate review. To change, I click on Choose Template over here, click on Two Pages, and now we're in our traditional two-page real estate review with the area patterns and then our scattergram graph. Now notice here, it already has the scattergram we customized, pulled in automatically, so we don't have to do that again. Now in this one, we have a little bit bigger area that we can kind of change the footer in, so I'm going to go ahead and change this to one of our custom graphics. To do that is under Customize Report, go to Custom Graphics, and there's two areas here that we can kind of change that. So to change that, all I do is click to upload or paste. I'm going to go back to my case study files here, put in the correct size. Awesome, we got another badge for doing that. Fun. And now I've uploaded my custom footer. Obviously yours would look a lot better than this one does. This is just a random stock image or whatever it is in there. Now I can save and update my template, so every time I create a new real estate view, this is automatically pulled in. I can save and stay here, or in this case I'm just going to say Save and View Report. just to show you how that changed. If I scroll to the bottom here, as you can see, I have my custom footer that you can put your graphics in, your images, whatever you want. Now this is basically the way that we're enabling full customization of these footer areas at the moment. You would go in whatever your preferred image editing software, whether it be Canva, PicMonkey, Adobe Illustrator, whatever it is, and create your actual footer in those pixel sizes, upload it, and you can really customize it however you want. Remember, in that agent branding, you can change the custom colors, I should say, of the title, as well as the other things that we're going to see here in a second regarding cover page colors and highlighted areas. So seeing that, let's go over to the multi-page report. So the multi-page report is where we start introducing extra pages that are optional that you can choose whether you want to include them or not. So in this case, we have a cover page, we have our odds of selling, we have the area trend, the buying pattern, the time to close, and then our scattergram. Now this is the pretty standard layout. However, you don't have to have this cover page if you want to use your own. You can kind of edit that or change that pretty easily. And so let me show you how to do all those changes. So under the additional options, which is a new control that appeared on this left side, we can edit this cover page. We can either use the standard text up here, or we can add a custom graphic to replace that. We can add pages like the FHFA graph report by selecting our area here in the top. Let's go back to 4 columns. We can add this FHFA graph report into it, and we can add a page like the property details page. Now you can see here there's a picture already loaded of the front of the house. It's because I used an actual address. And then we have a map as well. Now we can add a lot more details into this, but I'm not going to do it right now because I'm going to show you how to do that in the CMA anyways. So I'm just going to kind of show that whole process as we go. But let's say that I want to add the FHFA graph page and I want to remove the cover page for some reason. I can do that by clicking this edit report here in the bottom, which allows us to really choose what pages are included. Okay, and we can reorganize them. Let's say I want to make that one last. I can move it down here to reorganize it and kind of move those pages around. I can turn pages on and off. And once I have them all done, I click View Report, and then it'll show in that report, in that new order, how we wanted it. In this case, the FHFA graph page being down here. Now that we've created our reports, we're ready to go ahead and print them, download them, or show them to customers. The way you do that in the software now is you can download here, you can print right here, or you can click on this slideshow option, present, to really walk through this. If you happen to do it on an iPad or something in Office, you can walk through the report live on the computer. Now, the goal of a real estate review, obviously, is to start a great conversation that ends up leading to transactions, and in many cases leads to a CMA. So with that in mind, one thing we've enabled is the ability to convert this to a CMA, where it basically takes this and copies it, makes another file, and starts your CMA with all the work that you've already done in place, so you can kind of get going quickly on that. Now, it's a really cool feature, but I'm actually not going to do it right now because I want to show you the full process if you're creating a CMA from scratch. So let's jump over into the CMA section now so you can kind of learn that. Now, one thing to remember as I'm going through this, I'm going through this at pretty quick speed. Again, I'm giving us about 10 minutes for each of these sections. If you remember here, we're pretty much about 20 to 30 minutes in already, and I'm trying to go through this as quickly as possible. I will show you in the next section where to find help, where you can kind of learn the software more in depth. That way you're not stuck, kind of lost in the sauce here as I'm going through it. But I want to show you all these features just so you get a good overview of how the software works, and then through your experimentation, play, and learning, you're going to master it and love it. So let's jump into the create a new competitive market analysis function. To do that, click the plus on this card. I'm going to do this one as customer name demo. And I'm going to use the same address just to use the same data here and then kind of show you the whole process. Again, this is in Fort Collins, Colorado, in the neighborhood of English Ranch. Now, the difference between the real estate review and the CMA, the first page we agree with here, get another achievement for creating one, is actually the property details page. Now, this is kind of a mock MLS page, so you could just basically attach an MLS page if you want, but this one is laid out a little bit easier for customers to read, and we found a lot of customers really love the ability just to get the data in a way that's a little bit more digestible. So to create this page, we're going to type in some information. In this case, the house is a 3,500 total square foot with 3,500 finished on a 0.25 acre lot, built in 2001, 5 bed, 4 bath, 3 car garage. It has mature landscaping and is a fully fenced yard. It recently got a new roof. Obviously, I'm kind of making these up as I go right now. You'd probably type in your actual information as we go here. Let's see, older finishes, but well maintained. Okay, after I add my details I want to add into these sections, all I have to do is click Save. And once I click Save, the page below will refresh, adding that information here in the appropriate boxes. Now this image that it pulled up looks pretty good to me, but if I wanted to add another image, all I have to do is click this upload button and upload an image just like I did with my footer. That would replace this one. This is a little simple map of where that home is located. If it feels like it's too zoomed out, too zoomed in, I can adjust that by doing this. On the using the little slider bar, click Save. In this case now I zoomed in a lot closer to show where that is in the neighborhood. Just like that, we created our property details page and we're ready to start walking through the process of pricing the home. So in the next step, we're going to have that same recommendation from the real estate review of how to get the right data. We're going to select our MLS, and then we're going to read in our export file. So let me go ahead back to where that data was, pull that information in. And then as we go through the CMA here, it's going to walk us through that kind of big picture to small mentality, looking first at the larger area by looking at the FHFA graph. I can include both the state and the local in this one if I want to, versus one or the other. So I'm going to enable both toggle switches here in the top right. Click to go to next step. And as you notice I'm walking through this, we're actually creating the report pages as we go. So this is the way the report pages look. So it's not just the graph, but actually how it looks at the end picture. So as we go through, you'll kind of notice that. And again, if these colors aren't yours or don't match your profile, you go to your area, change the agent branding, and match it as we want to match you best. We have the odds of selling, we have the time to close, the buying pattern, and now we're back to our scattergram. Now, if I had imported it from the real estate review, your scattergram would already be customized. In this case, since we didn't, I'm going to do some of those same changes we did. I'm going to change it to finished square feet. I am going to add the text box here by clicking on the dot and say it is a patio home. Move that up here a little bit, and then I'm going to remove that from the trend line. So we got our scattergram back to how it was. Pretty accurate here. I'm going to move this over here actually just to make it a little easier. Pretty ready to go ahead and look at our pricing. So the way we look at pricing though is we add a subject property to it. Now in the past you had to add a subject property, re-render the graph, look again. If you want to change the text box or remove something or something wasn't quite right, you have to re-render it, render again. Everything now is live updating, so it's a lot easier to use. In this case, the data sheet is just kind of this lower area right here, not on a separate page either. So we're going to do some controls in here to help really master this process. So I'm going to first add a new property. And the default status to add is actually the subject property, which you can see is already selected here, and it pulls in the address as well as the information that I put into that property details page, which is why that step is first. We don't have to do it twice, we can do it once, and it works. Click Add to Chart, and now we have our intersect line from that property that we have on our subject property. You can see here that we can now use this to kind of get a rough estimate for value to kind of go into positioning. Now, if you are having trouble though seeing where this intersect point is, we do have a new feature where I can add to this by clicking on Edit on this data sheet down here and enable the Show Intersection line. When I do this, if I come back up, you can see it tells me what that intersection point is and really helps me understand that value best. So in this case, it's probably about 785 as far as the intersection point goes. We do know our house is a little bit on the older finishes, but well maintained. So it might be a little bit below the line based on what these other features are. But this is where you would end up looking at the ones that are similar to your size or similar to your overall kind of layout to the line, seeing what you're matching best, and then really making that determination. Once we have that determination of about what value we're expecting, let's say we are expecting about 785 here, we would then look at the competition, maybe ranging up and down some, where we end up thinking we're going to be pricing at. Then we would go ahead and do our positioning search. But before we do that, there's one last step just to make sure we don't have anything wrong here, which is to look at a map of the homes we're comparing ourselves to. So again, we're walking down this left-hand side here by clicking the Go to Next Step. But this controls, as you can see as I move up and down, has grown significantly for the CMA. So we're walking through each step just to achieve one goal with each page. So now we've made it to the pricing map step. You can see here that these are the properties that we are pricing against. They all look like they're pretty comparable, so we don't have to do anything here. When we get to the positioning step, I'll show you how this map can kind of illuminate maybe some errors that you might be making and kind of help us eliminate properties that don't quite match our profile. That being said, we then get into the next search, our second search for our active data. For most cases, it's going to be needed. Some cases it might not be if it's like you already searched the whole city wide or something like that. But if you are using one of these property types, you can see that the recommendation changes in the bottom as well. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to upload my positioning data. And again, I'm just kind of walking through this pretty quickly to show the software. If you had a question regarding this process, we have tutorial videos, we have a help center, and I'll show you where to find those. That really walks through understanding this a little better. Awesome. So once we upload that file, the first page we agree with actually is a boilerplate page. It's just an explainer page for your clients. Now, at the end of this whole process, you can choose whether to include it or not. Totally up to you. But what we found is a lot of clients don't quite understand the idea of a buyer zone. Like, they're intuitive enough to understand, yes, obviously buyers look in an area outside just their neighborhood and then compare what they can afford and kind of do the pros and cons adjustments. But really spelling out what we're looking at and kind of the range of potential buyers that could be looking at your house as well as your area is a great way to kind of explain that best to your customers. So in this case, we're looking at all of Southeast Fort Collins, which is obviously a very short, brief explanation of that. And then our competitive range here is defaulted based on the information that you uploaded from the data. If you want to change that or want to say it was more, for example, I actually searched in this data from 700 to 825. It just didn't happen to pull any houses up for sale at that time when I did the search. I'm gonna click that, I'm gonna click save. And then now this updated down here saying our competitive range is this, and then our buyer zone was here. Now again, this is a very easy to kind of walk through, read through, and explain page for you to talk through, kind of breeze through it. But if your customers are reading it again later, it gives them good insight into this whole process. Then we have our pond, which gives us great information regarding the momentum of the market. In this case, it's favoring sellers pretty heavily. And then I will also note in this, I know a lot of people with the pond really want to understand it better. I will show you how to understand it better in a very easy way in just a couple minutes. And I'm really excited about this. But for now, I just want to walk through this process and get through to the actual report creation. We get to our next graph, which is actually the positioning scattergram. We always add the subject property in the positioning scattergram. Go ahead and add this to the charts. But we also basically put our assumed price in first. Right, so our assumed base price we're going to put in. You can see it here on the graph. And what we like to do is really use the quadrant pricing to compare to other properties. So I'm going to turn on quadrants by clicking the button down here. You can see I have our new quadrant line that pops in. Now what's really cool about this is we can compare it now to this property up here that's for sale on Warren Landing, this one that's for sale down here in Seminole, and then this one for sale down here in Redbud, and say, how do we stack up? Are we in a good competitive situation, or are we kind of trying to reach too high because we have older features and maybe these houses have something special about them that we don't quite match up with? Because there's a lot of properties that are under contract down here, so we might be looking a little bit lower overall. Now, as we're going through this process, in the past you would compare the properties and then you'd recreate the graph and move that dot each time to create these quadrants. But we want it to be easier than that. So now, if you hover over the dot, you hold down your shift button, click and drag, you can live check this and move this. For example, move down to 765, and I can then reposition this and then look at that new positioning and see how I fit. So once you understand that the properties are out there for sale, you can really kind of move this price correctly to match the value you found from the pricing scattergram, but then position yourself in the right spot. So if this is the spot I liked and I kind of was good with it, all right, I'm happy with this position now because I know I have a competitive advantage over these properties. And this property, even though it's bigger than us, maybe we're in a more of a tie situation, but the momentum's in our favor. And this is the place I'm thinking on. But I also know it could probably be up some and be okay if I click shift again and drag to 775. But it could also be maybe a little bit lower depending on other entrants in the market. Okay, we don't have to have the full answer right now. We just have to know this. And the reason why is we're going to get to the positioning range, which gives our clients kind of a range that we would be confident in, that we have a good advantage on, that we're going to be competing well in the market, and then let them decide. But before we get to that, we have one last check again, which is checking that pricing map. So this is the positioning map, and this is what I wanted to show you guys in a cool way. Now we're positioning here against all southeast four columns. Not a lot of houses were for sale this time, but you'll notice we have a couple properties way down here. Now, being from Four Columns, knowing this, anything south of Trilby is a different school district and totally different pricing profile. So these are really not relevant to the house here. So what we want to do is remove those from the graph. Now, what's really cool about this map is you can do that without having to actually look back at the graph yet to really make sure you're moving the right properties. So you can see here we have a 9 and we have a B. So on the side here, I can uncheck 9. It'll refresh and that's gone. And this is now changed to A, just based on the properties there. Remove A, and now that's gone. And now we have properties that all fit into kind of our area. Now if we go back to the positioning scattergram, what we'd find is those were actually removed already from this graph and automatically resized and reshaped this whole thing for us. Awesome. Now we're happy with that. Let's go to the next step again. Go past the map, and now we have the page where we can kind of type in that positioning range. So if we were thinking from 765 to, let's see, 775 was probably the value we're thinking. Click save on this. It'll populate in this page here to kind of have that conversation ready to go. Now we'll talk with your buyer, or with your seller, I guess, about the idea of bridge pricing and having the max visibility. And this page really talks through that. Now again, if you don't like this page or didn't really want this as part of your process because you have a different way of speaking through that positioning scattergram, totally fine. At the end here, we can actually remove this page too. The other page we added to this is a really cool page to help explain the experience or expected experience to your sellers. It answers the questions like how long should it take your house to sell, when's the best time, how many homes close before the average, and after how many days do we relook at the data and say, do we need to change something? In this case, because the 35 days to close is a really fast number, if we've gone a full week without getting offers, probably need to look at maybe dropping the price or say, hey, what else came on the market that we're competing against that's been eating up that demand that's coming on the market? Now, this happens to be for this example. That's not always the same result. A lot of times, that if you have an average time to sell in your area of 100 plus days, then we wouldn't be looking at repositioning a contract for at least like 2 months or a month and a half, or whatever the number ends up calculating is based really on the market and what's been changing. That way we're really kind of reacting at the right time, but also setting the right expectation for your customers. So they're not thinking in that example, if it's 100 days to average time to close, that if they don't get an offer in the first week, they're panicking. No, it's okay. We're right on schedule. This is just the way that your area works. Now, this is a great little page that we added in there. Again, your option to choose if you want to include it or not. Now, we've done all the steps and we're ready to go ahead and create a report and show a report. So in this case, we have a cover page, a table of contents, because there's a lot more documents here, so we added that to kind of walk people through. We have our property details page we created, our FHFA graph pages, the area trends, which I'm just breezing through here. We have our map, we have our scattergram, we have our boilerplate understanding positioning area, we have our pond, the new map, the positioning scattergram, the general positioning range, and then our expectations page. Pretty awesome, pretty amazing report, pretty great walkthrough. Now again, you can change some things here though by clicking on the edit pages down here on the left. You can say, you know what, I like all these pages, but I just don't want to include this one. So for example, let's say I didn't want to include the positioning range page. Again, I went and did some action that gave me an achievement. I can uncheck this one, and now if I view the report again, everything will be here except for, if I scroll to the bottom, as we can see through, we got the scattergram, we have all the other pages in particular. If I get all the way to the bottom, you notice now I don't have that last page regarding the range. Your choice, you can choose however you want to have that, which pages to include, which pages as far as order goes to move around, or anything you want. You can also edit this cover page by changing a couple of key things. I'm using the standard layout here, but you can add a custom graphic there as well. Remember, to change your colors is in the agent branding underneath the settings up here. The last thing you can change is the scattergram titles, just changing the scattergram for the sold and the scattergram for positioning. If you wanted to kind of title those differently, all you do is come here and save those and then go and view your report. So just like that, we have gone ahead and created a real estate review report, created the easy button FHFA report, and now created a CMA. So, jumping back over here, we've now gotten through all this except for the printing and presenting section. So, on the CMA, it's the same function as far as download or print goes, or present here online or live through your tablet. Okay, so I've gone through that all pretty quick, but I want to make sure that you feel confident with the software and confident on this whole process. So let me show you where to get help. First in the software, second in the process, and third in understanding the graphs. So the first place we're going to go is actually the place called the Help Center. Underneath this question mark up here, we're just going to open this window here. Now this is basically a full walkthrough of all the software controls with documented steps, with pictures and everything to walk you through. Really easy way to go through this and really master the software as far as controls go. Now, as you can see, we also have a little help down here, which keeps popping up, which you can actually talk to and will help you find the resources you need to find in here, or you can search via articles in this top section. So for example, if I wanted to look for adding text boxes to the graph, I can see here, okay, this says adding text boxes to my CMA pricing scattergram. And this is all the controls for that pricing scattergram. So I can see this pretty easy. Scroll through this to find those text boxes in the on-graph controls, documented with images and step-by-step as we go. So this Help Center is a pretty massive collection of articles and is continuing to grow to add more features and functionality to help you master that. Again, if you needed help with it, you can actually type in this little chat thing here, which pops up. Let me ask a question. For example, let me ask, how do I change my duplicate listing interval? And the little robot that you're talking to here will help you find that information as it goes. Now, the cool thing about this as well is it's all aired in the Help Center, but if you're having trouble finding it, just talk to the robot and the robot will give you a great breakdown of all this and really help you understand how to find that functionality, as well as direct you to the right instructions of where to go to find it. So that being said, this is all here, including some breakdowns like the uploaded data warnings and then what you can do to fix them. So that's software usage. Now, to really master the process, I recommend watching tutorial videos. Now they can be found here on this main screen or by clicking the Watch Tutorials button here underneath the Help question mark. Now we have a couple tutorials up right now, 5 tutorials to be exact, I guess, looking at this, but this is going to continue to grow because these are meant to show more full process demonstrations. So for example, this CMA video here is 30 minutes long. So this is a full process, really understanding the whole functionality of the software and how to go through and what you should be doing. So remember, the Help Center is really the functions of the software. The tutorials is really the full process walkthrough. Now the last help we have is a really cool one, and we're really excited about this new feature, and that is your CMA coworker. Now the whole purpose of the CMA coworker is to help you understand the graphs and master your presentation. And the way you use them, is by having any of the pages open, so in this case the FJ graph, and then click on the option up here in the top right. When you click this, it's going to open up a window that basically reads off the graph, gives you a short understanding of how the graph is created or what it shows, and then actually breaks this down using the real data from the graph. So these notes are automatically created for you, and it's a really great way to read through them. Now the cool thing about this is as you go through and create these for each page as you go, I'm going to click close on this one. I'm going to add a couple more here, looking at the odds of selling next. To open this up and get a full script on understanding this graph in particular based on the actual data there, and click close. Create another one here. And I'm going to go ahead and then jump down to the pond, because that's one that a lot of people would like a little bit of help explaining. Click CMA coworker on that. And as you can see, these are all breaking down the script here. At the very bottom where it says the AI notes, it's the actual information from this graph. So in this case, it says this is a strong seller's market. You've got healthy demand with only 4 homes competing for sale. Over the next 90 days, 35 home names go under contract. If you price competitively in this range, you're positioned to attract one of these attractive buyers before the incoming supply increases. So it gives you really great takeaways from this, so you can really master this to understand it. But at the very end of this process, when we get to show review, all the graphs we just created step by step for have that in-depth breakdown. The ones we did not yet, if I click CMA coworker, it fills in any missing graphs to have some simple breakdown and notes understood on that. All I have to do is click that button, and it's created those in the background now. So what we can do with that, though, is actually master understanding this graph. Now, we really see a lot of people probably using this for practice to really understand the process and understand the presentation, but you can also do it with your customers. To open this up with the notes from that CMA coworker, click on the Present plus Notes function here, and you'll see here that we have the report up top and we have the notes at the bottom. So in this case, this says, this is the competitive market analysis prepared for you. We have your property address and name on file. This is an overview of how we'll walk through the data as we go through this. And each page as you go through updates this and talks about the page. Now the pages I didn't do that in-depth note one for gives you just a general idea on it. But as we get into these deeper ones, you can see the script gets much larger. And for example, walks through the script of this odds of selling that gives you actual takeaways. In this case, this house is a buyer magnet with 95% odds of selling. Homes are generally wanted by the market, which is a huge advantage when pricing against or when positioning against competition in less desired areas. So it really walks you through understanding what this means and what the takeaway is as you go through this. It's a great functionality, which you can minimize or blow back up, to walk through, to practice, or if you feel comfortable doing it in front of your clients, you can really kind of just do it and read it with them and really kind of walk through it together. So that's how you're going to find the most help. You're going to find help for the software usage in the Help Center. You're going to find the process walkthrough in the tutorials, and understanding the presentation process. You're going to get the most help from this AI assistant of the CMA coworker. So just like that, we have walked through navigating the software, creating new reports for FHFA and real estate reviews, creating new CMAs, where to find that help and really learn this whole process. So let's jump into how to log into your software. Now, your account has already been created for you automatically by our system, and you will have received an email from us with a button on it to create your new password. All I have to do is click that password, and it was sent out at about 2 p.m. Pacific time today. So click that button, create your password, and you should be good to go. Now, we've had most people working correctly on that, so you'll see basically on the login window, let me show you that really fast. It'll load here with a blue basically copy of your email and then 2 boxes to create your password. If it doesn't, it just brings you to this page, which has happened in a couple of cases. What you're going to do is click the sign up button here at the bottom, and you'll see this new window coming up. The email that we sent you that you got, that actual email address is the one we have on file to check to make sure you're a Focus First subscriber. So you need to make sure you use that exact same email in this box, and then enter your password that you want to create here and here. These don't have to be your same password as the last one. It can be anything you want them to be, but the email does need to be the same as the email we sent to you. So once you do that, enter your password, click sign up, then it'll take you back to the login screen where you can log in and you'll be good to go, ready to use the software. So again, you got that email in your inbox, and you should be ready to go to log into that. If you are just trying to find your login for that, on the Focus First webpage, you can see there's been some updates to the actual layout of it, but all you have to do is click login here, and this will bring you to that login page where you're ready to go ahead and access your account. Now, that here completes the main presentation of this, but there were a couple key questions I want to make sure I answer as we go forward in this process. We had some people ask, how do we do the ability of adding multiple MLS files or multiple MLS areas? And it's really cool because in the new software, we made that a lot easier and a lot more smooth, I should say. So to do that, all you have to do is your system settings here, and I'm going to enable multiple export files, in this case from different MLSs, to show you the control on it. Click close here, and let's go back into my real estate review and act like I'm uploading new files and kind of starting from scratch. To do that, I'm going to my upload export files, and I'm going to add an export file. So I'm first going to add the same one I put in here in general, but you can see here now it pulls this up and it's asking me to select my MLS. Now this selection window comes from your select your MLS step earlier, and it only shows the favorites. So make sure if you don't see your MLS you need, you go back to your select your MLS, add the favorites little star to the one you're using. But in this case, I only was using these two, so I'm going to click this one here. And to add a second file, all I have to do is add another one right here. Click open, and then select the MLS again. And what this does is takes these files and combines them into one, and then any duplicate listings, so for example, if you're on the edge of 2 different MLS areas, and it's shown in both ones, it'll actually combine those so you don't have the double listing situation. All I have to do that, click merge and save, and we're ready to go ahead and keep doing our process of creating our real estate review. The other main question we had regarding some of the functionality of this was when people were looking through some of these customized scattergram options before, they're saying, oh, this is really great, but my MLS doesn't show some of these data points. How do you guys calculate that then? If your MLS doesn't have it, then we can't quite see it. So in this case, I have the option of graph total square feet, finished square feet, or above grade square feet. That's because the Northern Colorado MLS has that information in it. Your information might have it and might not. This graph and the controls below will reflect your MLS and your settings, which is why it's so important that when you come to your homepage, when you're first getting started, you use this MLS export instructions here to get set up correctly to get as much data as possible. Because our goal is really to match this as best we can, but we can only match the data we have. The other main question we faced in the Zoom meeting was, how many can we create? You know, a lot of cloud-based systems have a certain limit on it. We don't put that limit on it. We let you create as many reports as you want, use the CMA coworker as much as you want. So our goal for you is to use this to get easy mastery of it and take action, because we believe results come from taking that action. So that being said, the last question is, when is it available? Well, right now. So hopefully you can find that email in your inbox, click that button, create your login. If you don't have that button or you can't find it, or when you click it, it pulls you to the login screen, just make sure you use that same email that you use for Focus First, create your login, get started, start having fun creating the reports, and we really hope that this leap forward into the web-based is a super value to you. One thing we did touch at, last thing to add here, is down the line, we're adding more templates, more customization options for the reports. Right now we have basically just a little square template. We're adding new styles, we're adding a lot more customization options in those, and we're adding more functionality to this as we go, both from the coworker side and from other features regarding the ability to print, share, or link some other awesome new features. And as we do that, we're going to notify you by email or by pop-up boxes like this one when you log in, really debuting those new features. The cool thing about the software is you just log in and get to keep using it. You don't have to re-download or update or have Microsoft Excel at all or use an activation code. We're just going to be able to update it live, keep it up and running, and keep improving it for you as you go. So that being said, we hope you enjoy this first release. We hope you love it as much as we loved making it for you. And please reach out to us using the support systems. This one right here that says contact support opens up your email. It's the best way to reach out to us nowadays because we really can get back to you quickly this way. And if it's a kind of a minor thing, we can really answer it really fast that way. If it's bigger, we can set up the meeting we need. So reach out to us using this function, request features, give us your feedback, positive or negative, hopefully more positive. But really enjoy the software, and hopefully this is something that is of massive value to you, to your career, and to explaining pricing where you can really leverage your expertise.